Sir, we must talk about Serbian affairs.
What do you mean? Serbia is having an affair? No, Serbia does not have mistress.
No, affairs of the state.
Affair number one. Serbia, number one in soccer, although we lose World Cup. Affair number two. Serbia, number one in politics, although we lose Kosovo. Affair number three. Serbia, not number one in econ. We must get out
The whiteboard.
Well, there is two ways we can look at economy, great leader. Number one is the PPC, which measures one good to another. In this case, our capital goods, which allow us to produce more, and our consumer goods, which our people can eat and live on. At the moment, we are below the curve. The curve means we are full employment, true Serbian, but we are inefficient, like the Americans. And we need to make up for that. And the way to understand that is we look at the ASAD graph. This maps our aggregate demand to our short-run aggregate supply. Now, as you can see, AD and SARAS meet at this point called equilibrium point. At this point, you have an equilibrium price and equilibrium GDP. Also, we have another line called the long-run aggregate supply. That line is akin to this line. It represents what we could be doing and what we must be doing, getting to full employment.
Alright. So what you are saying is what we must do to reach this long-run aggregate supply, or this is to make this go on top of this and this to this. Clearly, we must increase our aggregate demand and increase our aggregate supply in the short run. How do we do this, Mr. Expert?
Well, see, aggregate's demand is simple. It follows four things.
Yes.
Net exports, so
Of
we need
course.
to export more than we import.
Okay,
so
of
we have
course.
to play nice with Soviets.
Yes, of course.
And then our business investment, we have no business, so this doesn't matter.
Okay.
Consumption, our people have no money, so that doesn't matter.
Oh.
And government spending. We have a lot of
yes,
that.
lots of that.
We must increase the government spending to increase the aggregate demand.
Okay, very good, very good.
And
Now how do we increase this supply? Yes?
well, to increase short-run aggregate supply, we need to help our production possibilities. So to do that, we can decrease the wages.
Give our people less money. Alright, I like it.
Makes it easier to produce, or we must increase the resources.
I see. So we must take back Kosovo.
No, because taking back Kosovo would shift long-run aggregate supply. Because Kosovo has would increase capital goods because they have
I see.
machines. So that would actually make it we have more potential, but that'd be harder to reach.
So what you're saying is, what we must do is take back Kosovo so that we increase our long-run aggregate supply. Then we exploit the resources in Kosovo more efficiently to increase our short-run aggregate supply.
Yes.
And then we also must increase our government spending at the same time, and that will bring us to long-run aggregate supply and put a new point on the production possibilities curve. Is that what you are saying to me?
That is exactly what I'm saying to you.
This is truly wonderful. Truly amazing.
Now we must talk about Serbian currency.
What? So, tell me about these currency issues you were just talking about.
So currently the kebab is worthless abroad. So we need to deal with four things. The trip.
Yes.
So the first part of the trip is the taste. We need to make them want the Serbians more. As you can see here in the Forex graph, it marks the price of the Serbian kebab in the ruble to the quantity of the kebab of what they have. And this is, you have to pair this with the ruble graph to understand it, which shows price level in terms of our kebabs and the quantity of ruble in the forex.
Yes, okay.
So, if we make them want our flags more, and we do the greatest marketing campaign in all of Serbia,
Yes, of course.
we convince them to want more flags. So their demand for our currency will increase because how else are they going to buy our flags?
Yes, of course. They must use our currency to buy our flags. Yes.
Yes, and they will trade in their currencies to the forex to get ours, so their supply will increase as well.
Very
This
interesting.
increase in supply will cause a decrease in the price of the ruble, an increase in the quantity in the forex, and an increase of the supply. Now, and that will cause the currency to depreciate. Our currency will appreciate because the price will increase because they demand it more, as does the quantity and does the demand. Now, there are multiple ways we can do that. Flags aren't just the only one.
Yes.
We can increase our interest rates, attract those terrible US investors.
Oh, yes.
We can, I don't recommend. We can also convince the USSR, because you are great at
Of course,
convincing,
yes.
to pay the peasants more. If the peasants have more money, they can buy more Serbian goods, and that will automatically increase the demand of ours and increase the supply of theirs in the forex. And finally, we can lower the prices of our goods very, very low. That's why they will want our cheaper goods, because people are greedy. They will want, and that will increase our demand and once again increase their supply.
Now, this is all very good, and you have clearly appreciated our currency. However, the problem is you have appreciated our currency. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you told me that to increase our aggregate demand, we must export more than we import. But if our currency appreciates, that makes our goods more expensive, and they want to buy their own goods, which will cause us great terror. Can you show me this on the aggregate supply and aggregate demand graph?
Of course. So, as you can see, the aggregate demand decrease, so once again our price level drop and our GDP drop.
So this has all been for nothing. You're fired. You're going to Gulag.
I built so many buildings. Empire State Building, Eiffel Tower, Flatiron Building, this random colored thing. But I want more. I just want to build a 2,000-foot building in New York. But I don't know how.
Hey, you! Do you want to build a new building? Well, buddy, I am willing to offer you a loan of $1 million. Now, I'll need that back in about a year at a 300% interest rate. Is that too high? I mean, you know,
A little bit.
it's a bit of an issue. We've had all our money crowded out by the federal government. They've been taking so many loans, just spending so much. Come on over here to this whiteboard. Now see,
So what you're telling me is,
this loanable funds graph measures the quantity of money and the real interest rate, and how they relate to each other. This is the supply of loanable funds, and this is the demand of loanable funds. Now, as you can see here, the government has been demanding a ton of money. Because the demand has been going up, the quantity of money has been going up. Of course, we've been handing it to them.
Have they
And-
been demanding it because you dropped the interest rates? Idiots.
Anyway, so that makes the interest rates go way up. And because of that, we gotta give it to you at a really high interest rate.
so, high rates.
Yeah, really high rates.
Yeah, I don't think investors are going to want to do that. Oh well.
Yeah, and that's really too bad, because if you look over here at this aggregate supply and aggregate demand graph, well, you can't invest as much, which means you can't build your 2,000-foot tall building. Yeah, it's really too bad, because aggregate demand is going right down. Luckily, though, in the long run, that'll make the loanable funds graph go back up, and then we'll have more crowding out.
Goodness, how can I make the money market graph interesting? It's the most boring one. If only I had Jerome Powell!
Never fear, Jerome is here.
Wow, how are you going to teach me about the money market graph?
Bring out the whiteboard. So here at the Federal Reserve, we have many ways of changing the money supply. So we can buy or sell government bonds, we can lower or raise the discount rate, we can lower or raise the reserve rate, and we can change the federal funds rate. If we want to run expansionary policy and increase the money supply, we can buy government bonds, we can decrease the discount rate, we can decrease the reserve rate, and decrease the federal funds rate, which will increase the money supply, decrease interest rates, increase investment spending, increase aggregate demand, increase prices, increase GDP, and lower unemployment. Now, if we feel that the economy is too strong, we can run a contractionary policy by selling bonds, increasing discount rate, increasing reserve rate, and increasing federal funds rate, which will decrease the money supply, increase interest rates, decrease investment spending, decrease aggregate demand, decrease prices, decrease GDP, and increase unemployment.
But Jerome, can we affect interest rate?
Of course you can. Behold, the money market graph. Now on this graph, money demanded is the money that consumers hold in their hands, whereas money supplied is the money that the Federal Reserve has, that I have.
But
now,
Jerome, is the money demand also the money that we can save in the checking accounts?
yes. When you increase the money you have in your pocket, money demand increases. When money supply is the same, so interest rates increase.
My dear oil bearer, with your help, we can conquer the US. But how?
I can help with that!
Jim!
All we have to do is look at the Phillips curve and the ASAD graph.
ASAD?
Yeah, the ASAD graph.
Oh.
Whiteboard. So you see, the first thing you need to do is increase your aggregate demand. Now the best way to do that is to decrease your interest rates for your businesses so that it can better grab me from the earth. So,
Weird.
yeah, so if you're at point A right now and you're in a recession, you can move to point B along this Phillips curve. That means that you'll be at the natural rate of unemployment. As we all know, the Phillips curve measures the relationship between unemployment and inflation in the short run. So if you get to this point right here, the natural rate of unemployment, you can have full employment.
Yes.
Now, because you decreased your interest rate, something even greater will happen. You'll have so much oil, your short-run aggregate supply will increase.
Ooh.
Now what that means is your Phillips curve will go down. That means you have lower inflation and lower unemployment. How great!
Hey, for what here?
So, with that, you can become stronger than even the United States of America. Isn't that fantastic?
Oh, yes. But, oil barrel, how does this relate to ASAD, me?
Well, this relates to you, ASAD, because the Phillips curve and the ASAD are mirrors of each other.
Huh.
So this LRPC is the same thing as the LRAS.
Oh.
See how this YF and this NRU, those are both full employment.
Oh.
Now what's interesting is these two graphs are mirrors. So you have this side is a recession and this side is a recession. This is under the LRPC and this is under the LRAS. On the other hand, you have inflation on the other side where you're higher than the LRAS and to the left of the LRPC.
Aha, and also when the short run decreases here, it increases here.
Yes. So when aggregate demand increases and goes to the right, this point on the Phillips curve goes to the left.
Oh.
Now, just so you know, you have to be careful because if you do what I've been telling you to, you'll be right at full employment. If you do too much though, you'll go into inflation, and that will hurt you. You shouldn't do that.
Thanks, oil bearer. You really are our best friend.
Yeah!